In this lesson, we'll learn how to draw both open and closed path shapes using some of Illustrator's basic shape tools. Alright, so in the previous lesson, we talked about selecting objects in Illustrator. Now it's time to go ahead and get into the meat of Illustrator, which is drawing. And let's go ahead and talk about some basic tools for drawing simple shapes. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start by drawing some shapes here that are composed of a closed path. And I'm going to start over here in our tool panel. Let's go ahead and mouse over this rectangle tool right here. Now, the rectangle tool's keyboard shortcut is M, but if we go ahead and click on that and hold down, you can see that there's a lot of different closed path shapes we can draw with different tools nested underneath here. So with the exception of that flare tool, all of these are going to be closed path shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and tear this panel off, and let's go ahead and drag this over and draw some of these shapes here. Now, the first thing you may notice is there's a couple different what look like rectangle tools here. Now, these aren't actually the same. We have the rectangle tool and then the rounded rectangle tool right there next to it. So now with the rectangle tool selected, I'm going to come over here and we can just simply draw in a rectangle on our artboard right here. Now I'm going to go and undo that here. Before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and look over here in my tool panel at the fill color and the stroke color I have selected. Now it's really important to pay attention to this as you're drawing shapes, because whatever you're drawing is going to take on this fill color and this stroke color. So I'm going to go ahead and switch it back to the default by clicking on this little button right here. We can also just hit D on our keyboard to do that, and it's going to send it over and give us a white fill with a black stroke, that's okay for this lesson. So I'm going to come over here and just draw in a rectangle. Now notice here that we can draw in a rectangle any shape we want to using this rectangle tool, and we have anchor points at each corner that are actually corner points, so there's no curves at all in this shape. Now let me just undo that here. We can actually click and drag and hold down the shift key and constrain that rectangle so that it becomes a square. Now the shift key would be a modifier key for this tool, but let me go ahead and show you one other modifier key. We can actually hold down the Alt key as we draw this shape and draw the shape out from the center and not from that top left corner. So holding down the Alt key is another modifier key that we can use when drawing basic shapes. So we can also combine the Alt key with the Shift key to draw a perfect square from the center, just like so. Now let me just delete that square, and I'm going to go ahead and use my my rectangle tool here, and I'm just going to click on my artboard instead of dragging and drawing. Now you'll see here that I get a rectangle options dialog here, and we can actually manually specify both the width and height of this rectangle. So let's just say we want that to be 3 inches wide, and if we tab down to the height field, let's say we change our mind, we want a square. We can actually either manually type in 3 inches, or we can just click on the word height there, and it'll copy that value from the width field and put it in the height field. So let's go ahead and hit OK, and you can see here that we've dropped a square onto our artboard here. Now, most of these closed path shape tools actually have the ability to just click on the artboard and draw the shape. So let's go ahead and grab the rounded rectangle tool and take a look at what that does. Now we can just click and drag, and you can see it works much in the same way as the regular rectangle tool. We can hold down our Alt key from the center to draw from the center there. We can hold down our Shift key to constrain it to more of a square shape, and the corners are rounded off. So we're actually creating some curves with this shape. So if we take a look at this, instead of one anchor point being placed at each of these corners, creating a corner anchor point, we now have two that are placed just before and just after the corner, creating this curve. Let me go ahead and delete that shape here and show you what happens if we click on the artboard. You'll see here, if we just click instead of drag, that we're going to get another rounded rectangle box here, and this box also has a height and width entry field, but we also have a corner radius, so we can actually adjust the radius of the corners of our rounded rectangle so it can be either more curved or less curved. So another little option there that you should find useful in drawing rounded rectangles. We have our ellipse tool next here. The keyboard shortcut for the ellipse tool is the key L on your keyboard. And if we go ahead and hit that here, we can draw, again, just this exact same way as we did before, using Shift and Alt as modifier keys. With our ellipse, we can just click and we get, again, a height and width adjustment for the ellipse. So nothing new there. Let's go ahead and grab the polygon tool. It's the next tool over in the tool panel here. and we're going to go ahead and click and drag. And notice here that we're drawing a triangle. This is a really great tool to use if you need to draw a triangle. Let me show you how this works. I'll undo that and just click on the artboard, and you'll see here that we have a radius, and then we have a number of sides options. So we can specify how many sides we want our polygon to have, and the radius. Let's go ahead and give it 8 sides. And you can see here we have sort of a stop sign shape. Now the star tool works pretty similar to the polygon tool. If we just go ahead and click on our artboard here, you're going to see we have 2 different radius options, and we also have a number of points instead of a number of sides. So let's go ahead and just say we want maybe 7 points on this star, and let's go ahead and just hit OK on this. Alright, so the reason we have 2 different radiuses with the star tool is that there's one radius for the inner anchor points here, and there's one radius for the outer ring of anchor points. So you can adjust both of those. You can make the stems of the star a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, and you know, create whatever star shape you want to using that star tool. So these are the basic shape tools for creating closed path shapes here in Illustrator. I want to go ahead and bounce over here now and draw some some open path shapes. Let me just delete that star and close out this this tool set we just opened up, and let's go ahead and click on our line segment tool here and hold down. Now the line segment tool has some other tools nested underneath it, the arc tool and the spiral tool. We're going to go ahead and check out both of those, but the line segment tool is a very simple tool, and it's just a matter of clicking and dragging to draw in a line or a path connected by 2 anchor points here. Not much flashy about that. We can actually also click on our artboard with this tool, and we're going to get a little options box here for the line segment tool, and we can specify the length of our line and also the angle. Now we can also specify if we want this line to be filled or not. Now let me just go ahead and come back over here, delete these lines, and I'm going to hit D to set my default to a white fill with a black stroke, and let's reverse that here. And I'm going to go ahead and draw in another line segment, and I'm going to fill it this time. Well, let's go ahead and draw it in a little bit bigger than that. Let's go ahead and call this maybe 1.5 inches. Alright, so in doing that, you can see here now that the path we've drawn, or the line we've drawn, has a white stroke applied to it and a black fill. So that's exactly what that options dialog does. Let's go ahead and delete that for right now and check out the arc tool, which is the next tool underneath the line segment tool. Let's go ahead and snap this out here. Now before we bounce over to the arc tool, you can actually also get to that options dialog for the line segment tool by double clicking on the tool itself. So just another way to access that dialog. Let's go ahead and grab our arc tool right here. Now the arc tool is a pretty interesting tool. It's going to allow you to draw a curved line just simply by clicking and dragging on your artboard. Now with this tool we can also use our modifier keys here as well. We can go ahead and hold down our shift key, and it's going to pull it out just like so. And we can also hold down the Alt key and pull it out from the center of the path or the line. So you can see here as we spin this around, it changes the direction of the curve. So kind of a strange tool. Can create some really interesting curved lines with this tool. Let me go ahead and show you some of the options for this tool. It's got quite a few. Go ahead and delete those curves. Alright, so again we can access the options for the arc tool just simply by double clicking on the tool itself, or just by clicking one time on our artboard, and you're going to see all these options come up here. Now we have a length of the x-axis and a length of the y-axis here. The x-axis is going to specify the width of the arc, and the y-axis is going to specify the height of the arc. We have a type option here which is going to allow us to draw an open or a closed arc here. This base along option right here is going to specify whether we want the base of our arc to sit on the x-axis or the y-axis. And then we have an option here, a little slider to change how concave or convex our arc is. And again, we have another little box to fill the arc itself. Then we also have another little reference point dialog right here. Now this is going to allow you to click on any of the 4 corners and specify which corner the arc is drawn from. So again, just some options for the arc segment tool here. Let's go ahead and close that out, and let's take a look at this last tool. This is the spiral tool. Now the spiral tool is going to draw exactly what it says, a spiraling path or a spiraling line. So let me go and just draw one here. I'll drag that out, and you can see here that it's just a basic spiral. So let's go ahead and click on the artboard and see what the options for this tool look like. Here we have the option to change the radius, the percent of decay of our spiral, and the number of segments that our spiral has. We can also change the style or the direction of the spiral here as well. So not quite as many options as the arc tool, but yet another tool for drawing an open path shape here in Illustrator. Alright, so in this lesson we have actually discussed drawing both closed path shapes and open path shapes using some of the default tools here in our tool panel. In the next lesson we're going to actually pick up and start thinking about drawing more freeform custom shapes using the pen tool.